everybody, I hope you are doing well. In this video I am going to do my favorite books of 2021. So this video is a tiny bit late because as I'm filming it, it's already January 9th and I'm assuming that by the time this goes up it's probably a week later, so apologies for that, but I guess better late than never. Quick side note, I am now working full-time and I'm still kind of figuring out a filming and uploading schedule besides that because yeah, it takes up a lot of time, but yeah, that is why some videos might be a little bit delayed. But I am filming it right now, my best books of 2021. I'm going to talk about my top 7 best books of 2021. It might seem like a little bit of a weird number, and that is because it is, but it's mostly because overall, even though I didn't have a bad reading year, I also feel like I didn't have the best reading year. I felt like this year, when it comes to reading, was very overall okay. Like, I do have some books that I really love, that's why there's still this video. But overall, there were a lot of books. There were like 3 stars that were alright, that were okay, but didn't blow me away, that I did not fall in love with. I just didn't have that feeling a lot during this year. So yeah, I mean, that happens as well. It's not a tragedy, it's not the end of the world, but it does mean that this video is a little bit shorter because usually I'd like to do the best 10 books I read during the year, and now it's going to be the best 7 books. So I'm not going to make this intro any longer because I tend to do that. I tend to talk a lot. I'm just going to get started with the best books I've read in 2021. So I'm going to start with 3 books that were 4.5 star reads. So they were the best of the 4-star reads, but not really the best of the year overall. We'll get to that after this. So the first book that I really enjoyed is The Invisible Life of Eddie LaRue by V.E. Schwab. And this is a very popular book, especially last year around this time. This was so well loved and so popular. And this, I think, is also the very first book that I read in 2021. And as you can see, I loved it very much. So The Invisible Life of Eddie LaRue is about a young girl named Eddie who in the 17th century in France makes the deal with sort of a devil or demon, whatever you want to call it, that she will never age and that she will always stay young and healthy. But in exchange for that, she will also be forgotten by everybody who meets her instantly. Like, the moment they turn around, they have forgotten her and she's unable to leave any mark. She cannot write her name or write anything. So she is to live forever, but she's also invisible. She leads her life for this way about 300 years until she meets a young boy named Henry, who seems to be a little bit different than other people. This book, as I've said many times in reviews before, really is kind of a fairy tale, but more of a tragic kind. It's very much about the be careful what you wish for aspect of a fairy tale. I thought this book was beautiful and tragic and just very beautifully written. I think the writing style is one of the things that I loved most about the book. I think all the characters are very interesting. They have different dimensions to them, different motivations. It really was a pleasure to just be in this book and see this story unfold, and I had a great time reading it. Now, the only reason that it's not a 5-star read is because I thought it had a very strong first part and a very strong final part, but the middle of this book kind of dragged a bit. The middle was a bit slower, a bit more boring. I wasn't as invested in the story as I was with the beginning and the end. So I feel like this book is kind of a little bit unevenly paced. And that is the only thing that I liked about it a little bit less. So overall, very great book, enjoyed it a lot. I think it's very different from V.E. Schwab's other work, except for the middle, which is not my favorite part. But yeah, I still had a great time reading it. Next up, I have Malibu Rising by Taylor Jenkins Reid. And Taylor Jenkins Reid is a name you've probably heard before if you watch any booktube videos or if you have watched any of my particular booktube videos. She is one of my favorite authors, and Malibu Rising was one of her new releases this year, or like her new release in 2021. This book is about a girl named Nina Riva and her 3 siblings, who are the children of a very famous singer named Mick Riva, who is also a minor character in The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. But what is unique about this book is that it takes place over the span of 24 hours on the day that there will be the big Riva beach party, the annual Riva beach party. But at the end of the party, at the end of the day, the house will go up in flames. This is something that you are told immediately at the beginning, but you don't know how it's going to happen and you don't know why it's going to happen. And then you follow these characters throughout a day, and you also get a lot of flashbacks to their childhoods. So obviously this one just had to be in this video because I love Taylor Jenkins Reid so much, and I think she very much did it again with this story. It is beautiful. Her characters are so interesting, so fabulous in a lot of ways, so human. There's so much to the story. This one in particular is very fitting for summer. This was like on every single summer book recommendations video that I have seen this year, because it is at the beach, it is during the summer, surfing is a very important theme, so it is just so atmospheric, so pretty, so beautiful, and I loved it so much. The only downside to this book, which is why it's a 4.5 stars and not a 5 stars, is that I think it was just too short, and I think it was kind of limited by its premise of it only taking place in 24 hours. Because in that way you are also very limited when it comes to certain developments, which seem to happen very quickly because it all happens in one day. Even though I still believe the developments, they are still happening in a way that is believable, but they also happen very quickly, which is just like, not really sure. My wish is that this book was so much longer, or maybe the first book in a series, because I could read about these characters, especially Nina Riva, who is just amazing. I could read about them for hours. I wish this would have been 800 pages long. It would have been amazing. I would have read all of it. And I guess that's my only complaint, is that it's too short, too limited, when there was so much potential. There could have been so much more to it. There are still a lot of, I guess, questions that I have about these characters that I want more about them. I want to know more. And with the size of this book, it just wasn't possible. The time frame was too short, there were too many characters, it was too crowded. But apart from that, still really, really loved it. I will always love Taylor Jenkins Reid. Then for the final 4.5 star read, I have Royal Assassin by Robin Hobb. This is the second book in the Farseer trilogy, which is kind of the first trilogy in this entire fantasy universe by Robin Hobb. There are many more books, many more books, but I started with the first book and the second book this year. This trilogy is about a young boy named Fitz, who is the bastard son of a prince, and therefore is kind of like royal, but also not really royal because he is the bastard son. So he ends up being trained as the royal assassin, which is kind of the premise of this entire series. Apart from that, there is so much more that is happening. Like, this series is very rich. There are many characters, many developments. It happens over a lot of years. But if I went into more detail, there would be spoilers, which I'm not going to do. So Royal Assassin is the second book and the one I enjoyed the most. And overall, I think Robin Hobb is an amazing author. I think there's definitely a reason why she is so popular and so beloved. Because she really takes her time with building this world and building the characters, and it is a very rich story. The reason why I love this one more than the first one is because the first book is very much a setup. Nothing much happens yet, but it builds the world. And in the second book, it really pays off. And I love the adventures. I love the dangers. I loved everything about it. The only tiny detail being that it is like a long series and a long book. And sometimes it is a tiny bit slow, and sometimes when you are not 100% focused on it, it can be a little bit hard to get through. So for me, it took a long time to read this book, and then afterwards I was kind of in a book slump because I was just so full of this story and I could not really read anything else. So I guess that is the only reason why it's 4.5 stars, but overall I think it's masterfully written. I cannot wait to read the third book and see how it's going to end, and then all the other book series by Robin Hobb, and to see what else is going to happen in this universe and with, well, not these characters particularly, but just this world. And I'm only at the beginning. So yeah, I think that there are going to be future books that are going to be even more amazing, but for now this one was definitely one that I enjoyed a lot. And now it's time to get to my 5-star reads. I had 4 5-star reads in 2021, or at least 4 new 5-star reads. I did do a lot of rereading, as I always do, but I don't count those because those have appeared in previous best books of the year videos. The first 5-star read being The Vanishing Half by Brit Bennett. This is a historical fiction book that takes place in the 1950s and 1960s, and it's about a set of identical twin girls who are black girls, but they are light skinned. And the premise of this book is that they both choose to lead very different lives, with one girl passing as white and kind of leaving her community and her twin sister to be able to live a life as a white person, and the other girl having a dark-skinned daughter and going back to the community. So this book is about their different lives and the parallels of one of them choosing to lead a black life and one of them choosing to lead a life as white passing. I loved this book so much. I think it is brilliantly written. I enjoyed it very, very much. I think this book, it's not really plot-based, it's mostly character-based. It's very much about the characters, about their experiences, their motivations, and how their life continues like that. It's also a story that takes place over multiple generations, which is also something that I always really enjoy. So basically it has everything in a book that I enjoy, because I love sibling relationships, I love historical fiction, I love books that take place over multiple generations, and this book has it all. And I feel like the emotions of these two sisters and their regrets, or the things that they did not regret, it is so well portrayed, and it feels very human and very raw. I mean, this book just did not leave me for a long time because there was so much in my mind. I just think it is a very, very good book that everybody should read, because I just did not have a single thing that I did not like about it. I guess some people will not enjoy that it's not very plot-based and that it might be considered slow in that way. I did not really consider it slow, but I guess if that is something that you do not enjoy about a book, then this might not be the most perfect book for you. But for me, I loved it. I loved all the character work, and I just love the way this story was presented and how it was written. And yeah, amazing book. Definitely one of my favorites. Then, of course, on this list had to be A Little Life by Hanya Yanagihara. A very famous book for being the saddest book ever. Yeah, this was kind of an experience. It is about 4 college roommates who go on with their lives. That is really all I can say about it, because it's so hard to give a good premise. It's really something you should experience. The only thing that I can say is that there are a lot of tragic things, emotional things, and a lot of character work as well. I have an entire reading vlog about this book where I show my emotions. Like, I cry a lot, which is very rare for me because I never cry with books. It almost never happens. And I know that video, I just know because of the analytics, that the most watched point of that video is the point where I start crying. I can see that in the analytics, and it's funny to me that so many people just go to the video and look at me crying. For me, it was a good cry because I felt like this book did such a wonderful job at making me feel my emotions. And the thing is, I know that A Little Life, it's a very hit or miss. I know some people really hate it, and some people really love it, and I just happen to be one of those people who really loves it. I love that this book is like so long. It's like 800 pages long, and still I read it so quickly. I could not put it down. I felt like the writing was superb. I felt like all the characters were so interesting. And yes, there is a lot of tragic stuff and a lot of very intense stuff. So be careful if you pick this up. Very big chance that it might not be suitable for you, because I can completely understand that. I think for my full review, you should probably watch my reading vlog, because I give all my in-depth thoughts on this book there. But for now, I can say it was one of my favorite books. I had well, not the best time reading it, because I cried a lot, but I had a really good time reading it. And yeah, really loved it. Next up, I have Henet by Maggie O'Farrell. And this book is the story of Henet, who was the son of William Shakespeare. The premise tells you that when Hamlet's twin sister gets taken ill, he tries to find any one of his family members. But the premise then also tells you that it will actually be Henet who will not survive the week. Again, not a spoiler, you are told this from the beginning. But then this book goes into the past about the relationship of William Shakespeare and his wife Anne or Agnes. I'm not really sure. History is kind of conflicted about that. In the book she's called Agnes, so it's about that, about their relationship, about their children. It is very poetical. It is very slow. It is very much character based. And I completely loved it. What I love about it is that even though these characters, they are the wife of William Shakespeare and the children of William Shakespeare, but William Shakespeare himself is actually a very minor character in this entire story. And his name is never said once. His first name and also the last name, Shakespeare, is never said once. So they try to make him as irrelevant as possible, even though, of course, the story is only relevant because he is relevant. And I felt like that is kind of a beautiful way of telling a story. Like, it really grabbed me. I also loved how it told the past and the relationship between William Shakespeare and his wife and their children. Just, ooh. I felt like it was told in such a beautiful way. It was emotional, it was strong. I was just hooked from the beginning, even though it is such a slow book and it is so much about the poetical way of writing it and of reading it. I really enjoyed it. And I did not know this story about William Shakespeare's children. I had no clue, so I learned some historical things as well. But I just felt like this book has one of the best kinds of writing I have ever seen. And I loved it for it, and it's why I gave it 5 stars. I just don't know anything that is really wrong with it. I loved it, it is beautiful, one of my favorites. And then for the final book in this video, I have The Rose Code by Kate Quinn. And again, Kate Quinn should be a name that you're probably familiar with if you watch more videos of mine, because she is also one of my favorite authors. And Kate Quinn did it again with a new release this year. The Rose Code is also historical fiction. Kate Quinn also always writes historical fiction. It's about 3 women who all worked at Bletchley Park, which is this very famous operation during World War II, where they were basically cracking secret war codes. So the work is very top secret, but it's about these 3 women who work there and become friends. But then there's a second storyline that takes place a little bit in the future, shortly before the wedding of Prince Philip and Princess Elizabeth. And you are being told from the beginning onwards that one of the 3 friends betrayed the others and there is some bad blood between them. But now at this point in time they need to reunite because it turns out there might have been another traitor at Bletchley Park. Just the premise already makes me so excited to read it again. I'm sure I will reread it this year because, oh, Kate Quinn, I loved it so much. What I loved about it is that there are 3 female characters and they are so different but so strong and so interesting in different ways. And I feel like this book is also so unapologetic about it, how these characters are flawed in different ways and also very talented in different ways, and how they become friends, how there is so much going on. It kept me on the edge of my seat the entire time. It made me emotional, it made me root for these characters, it made me hate other characters. It just did everything that I wanted from a historical fiction book. What I like about Kate Quinn is that she has such a talent for writing these strong female characters in historical settings without making them not like other girls or making them hate everything that is male and everything that is a man, because I feel like some books try to make female characters strong in that way, but she does it so well whilst also staying true to history, and that is something that I just really appreciate. And this story overall, it is wonderful, it is beautiful. I don't really have a lot to say apart from it. I just think that everybody should read it, and also read other books by Kate Quinn like The Alice Network and The Huntress, because all of them are so good and I love them. And I will always love Kate Quinn and I will always read everything that she writes. And with that, we have come at the end of this video. I always really like filming this. I always like to look back on the books that I really loved during the year. And yeah, even though it was a bit of a shorter one, it was a bit of a, I guess, shorter reading year. Is that the best way of saying that? Maybe not. I still am so happy with all of these books that I enjoyed, and I cannot wait for all of these amazing books that I will hopefully read in 2022. I hope it's going to be an amazing reading year. I hope it will be an amazing reading year for you as well. And I also hope that with these books I maybe have convinced you to read one of them. I always love it when somebody says to me that they've read a book because I recommended it. It makes me feel so so happy inside. So please tell me if that is the case. Please tell me, I would love to hear. And again, I hope you're all doing well, and if you want to see more, you can always subscribe, leave a comment, like this video. I would appreciate all of that support. And then hopefully I will see you again very soon in my next video. And until then, bye!